Hello, I'm Dave Peach, and this is the Crawfordsville Peachcast, sponsored by Tri-County Bank, your community bank since 1892. See them in person or at tricountybank.net. Tri-County Bank, member FDIC, and equal housing lender. Crawfordsville Peachcast, we are presented by Tri-County Bank, your community bank since 1892. We're also sponsored by Central Indiana Rubber, power for you. Dave Meyer is here. We always start the show 1, 2, 3. Hello.
Hello.
Todd. Another 90s movie. We did Point Break 1991. Now we go to 1999. We book in the 90s with Blast from the Past, a movie I had not seen, number 31 for us. In the Untoasted series, Brendan Fraser, Alicia Silverstone, Christopher Walken. Does he hear cowbell everywhere he goes? I mean, I would imagine he does.
He must, Dave.
Sissy Spacek. She was not only, well, not Sybil, but who was Carrie. She was Carrie.
She was Carrie. She was also the coal miner's daughter, Dave. She was Loretta Lynn.
Dave Foley is in the movie as well. Perry Como.
Perry makes Perry's music has probably not been that featured on a movie for a while.
But we don't want to give away all the good parts of this movie. We'll break it down after the break, but we want to talk a little bit about the 90s. And when you look at the 90s, a lot of people like the 70s, a lot of people like the 80s, and the 90s kind of overlooked. But when you look at the 90s, there was no internet to start the decade. And then in 94 to 95, we had really slow internet.
Right. That was the AOL CompuServe prodigy days.
And I remember I went to Jim's house, friend in Columbus, Indiana, and he had the internet.
Yeah. 1993, I remember logging on at the company that I worked for, and I established our first email address, which was an AOL account for the entire company, Dave.
And by century's end, we were so concerned about computers and the internet that we were scared of Y2K.
Yes. Boy, we were. What's going to happen? No one knows. They're not built. What's going to happen? So, hey, the premise of when this came out, seemingly a good timing, I would say.
Y2K, if you were not around, was one of those, if that's all there is, let's keep dancing kind of moments. It's like, wow.
I don't think did anything happen. All the things that might have been feared, which was computers were going to have issues and therefore a million things were going to break down and not work. And really, I don't remember anything.
Well, I can remember this. I salute Columbus, Indiana, because they had Y2K celebrations. They had fireworks. They have multiple locations going on all night. We were out literally from 9 p.m. to 4 a.m. doing stuff in Columbus, Indiana. Food, all the activities. They really did it up well.
Right.
Yeah. So it was a big fun time. Y2K for me was okay.
Oh, good go. I know. I just remember that nothing bad happened, at least as a result of that.
Now let's talk sports. The 90s was bye-bye baseball.
Bye-bye baseball. Boy, football on its rise. And Michael Jordan.
We'll get to all of those. Now, let's talk about baseball first. Okay. The strike killed baseball.
Yeah.
Was it the strike? Was it the expanded playoffs? Was it the oversaturation? Was it the pace of the game? What changed as far as baseball goes? Because here's my broad brush thing about baseball. Baseball is still very popular. Guys make 10, 15, 20, $50 million a year. No question about it. But where baseball has changed over the years in my humble estimation, is that in 1975 and 1985, even in 1990, people watched the World Series. They watched the World Series no matter who the teams
Who
were.
was playing? Yeah.
Now you don't unless your team's in it.
Yeah. No, I think, baseball began in a time when there weren't a lot of team sports, right? I mean, racing, just one person racing another person, and barn wrestling were, the sports were horse racing, right? I mean, so when baseball came around for a very long time, didn't have a lot of competition, and the competition wasn't considered that great. Football was violent. People got killed. The NFL for a very long time was not, a real strong sports league. The NBA was around, right, and growing, but this was a time period when the '80s had not been good for the NBA for the most part. So I think baseball has the fact that it had not changed so much in a time period where we're talking, as you say, the internet came along, our world started to change slowly to begin with, but the pace has increased. At the same time, the pace of baseball has always stayed the same, which, as we've now seen in the last few years, there have been adjustments made that, for the most part, fans are excited about. And these are people that are paying money to go see games anyway. So definitely baseball. I just think baseball, it was not a sport for TV, number one. And what has happened in our lives is that sports, if your sport does not play on television in a way that can be, really, really adopted by fans, it's not going to accelerate in its growth.
Let's talk football. The single biggest media takeover in sports history. It was when CBS lost the NFC to Fox. Now think about this. The most established, biggest brand in television, historically, CBS, with the biggest sports property on the planet, or at least, I know maybe soccer would be there, but at least
not at this time.
Not at this time. The biggest property, the NFC, they lost it to an entity that did not have a sports department.
Yeah. Well, a couple of things.
Fox Sports did not have a sports department when they took on the NFC in the NFL. If you think about it, it boggles the mind.
It could not happen today, right? Number one, this was in a world where network television still had a lot of power. So Fox had power as a result of being a network at this point. And they'd been, how long had been on the air at this point? About 15 years ish?
Oh, no. I would say less than 6 years. Maybe, what was the first?
Okay.
Because the first.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
The
with
first
80s.
Fox was like Tracy Ullman and Married with Children and
that was
21 Jump
Sunday
Street.
night. Sunday night lineup. And I was still at Butler, Dave. So that would have been, 80, maybe 85, 86, something like that.
I'll go with that.
Okay, so let's say this is 10 years, approximately.
Yeah.
So I remember one of the things that came out of this that David Letterman said, "Hey, I paid attention to that, right? Because he knew how much promotions for his program during games helped his program, period." So, I mean, he knew about it. I think the biggest thing is CBS was they were the Tiffany network, as you say, right? They had the Masters for forever, and it wasn't going anywhere. They had the NCAA tournament, right? Which at this point they had for a few years. I think they were just soft in that they thought, well, the NFL's not going to walk away from us. We're going to give them more money. No, Rupert Murdoch backed a truck up with cash and then went after John Madden. And that was all it took. After that, they got everybody they needed.
It was the star is football, we learned, and the star was not the network. Mm-hmm. It was football that was driving driving the boat, not CBS driving the boat with football on the back.
And I mean, the average fan, all he knows is, okay, what? What? Do I get that channel? Okay, John Madden's going to be there. Okay, Pat Summerall's also going to be there. Okay.
I can
How
only
hard is it going to be to change the channel?
I can only imagine what it was like in Chicago, Illinois, at the TV station when maybe it was WBBM that carried the Bears forever.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, Channel 32 in Chicago gets 13 Bear games.
Yeah.
Hello.
Wow. Yeah. And that was the catalyst that changed everything. And also, to the credit of Fox Sports, they came at it from a different angle, right? They immediately
with the scoreboard, the constant graphics, scoreboard, and all that. Yeah.
Everything that they did has been replicated in some fashion by ESPN, by all the networks in terms of the crawls and how much information is on the screen. So, I mean, and that was all based on a producer that they brought who had been very successful doing football, not American football. So, I mean, it's interesting how things have changed and that a lot of what came out of that was good. But for us, people that grew up with 3 networks and watching a lot of CBS programming and sports and entertainment, I was like, wait a minute. I'm not sure about this.
We go to basketball, and you mentioned Michael Jordan and NBC, Marv Albert, those 6 championships for the Chicago Bulls. And we have an interesting timeline to talk about as we kind of end our sports talk. But when you talk about NBC, NBA, Reggie Miller, Spike Lee, New York Knicks, all that, even Shaq at Penny and Orlando, Hakeem Olajuwon in Houston. There were tremendous. Of course, you still had Larry Bird a little bit in the 90s and Magic Johnson, the Dream Team in 92. Don't sleep on the 90s when it comes to sports, particularly in the NBA. Of course, I guess people will throw things at me because Michael Jordan won 6 in the 90s. Okay, but we know that. But there was even, if you can believe it, there was even more going on than Michael Jordan's 6 championships.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this was also, sports blew up in a big sort of way in that we were, not just, watching baseball, basketball, football, but the coverage of everything took off. If you're an auto sports person, you can watch about anything. You can watch, motorcycle races in Europe in the middle of the night. You can, if you're a curling person now, you don't have to wait for the Winter Olympics, right? So the niche broadcasting of a million different types of entertainments involving sports began to splinter everything. But we see the rise with, the NBA has continued to ride what happened during the 90s to where they are today.
NBA is getting ready to go from $2.7 billion a year to $6 billion a year. And as far as TV rights, and we could talk about TV rights and the funny stories of NBA TV rights. At one point, they didn't even worry about the TV rights, but we'll move on. But I do want to get to one more timeline when it comes to NBC. Now, we will talk about the must-see TV during segment 3 of today's show. But if you look at NBC in about a year's time, 98, 99, they lost the AFC package to CBS, who came back to get the package in the latter part of the 90s. Mm-hmm. Jerry Seinfeld signed off the air, and Michael Jordan retired within about a 12-month period. That's a lot of loss for NBC.
Huge. And those were, I think about just from a pure content-driven narrative, whatever you're putting on the air has some story that connects with an audience. And you are taking away big content drivers. So, NBC at that time, too. Seinfeld had grown slowly, but was crazy by the time the finale came around. And Michael, I mean, the fact that Michael walked away from baseball, right, during this period, and we're now paying attention to Birmingham Barons games, right? And then we're watching what happens with these other teams during this period. And then wait a minute, Michael comes back. And as a buddy of mine who does a lot of work for networks as a videographer in Indianapolis, he said, I couldn't get outside to put batteries on charge before my phone started ringing. Because when Michael was coming back, his first game was going to be in Indianapolis and the world was going to cover it. So, that's how there was so much interest. This guy knew as soon as he heard the announcement, they're going to start calling. I got to get ready. And he said, before I got back to the house, the phone was ringing.
I'm going to tell a quick story. I was in Scipio, Indiana, working at a radio station, and we had a sister station. And this sounds like I'm making this up. We had a sister station that carried Pacer games.
Okay.
And so we said, hey, would you give us 2 tickets to a Pacer game, and we'll give them away on the air here in Scipio, Columbus, North Vernon, whatever. Well, this was when Michael Jordan was retired. They gave us tickets to a Chicago Bulls versus Indiana Pacer game. It ended up being the game that Michael Jordan came back. Why did he come back on the road? Why didn't he come back in Chicago? He came back at Indy, and the station I was working at, by some incredible twist of fate, we were giving them away on the air. I know we didn't make as much money as we should have on these, but that is the backstory. Because he came back mid-season.
Yeah. Yep. I think it was not it was like just a regular game, and he came back, didn't do much, wasn't much of a game, got in, scored a little bit, but I think the Pacers won.
Took him a little while to get going again and win 3 more championships. We'll talk about must-see TV and more. It is the 90s. Salute, blast from the past. We'll talk about it next on the Crawfordsville Peachcast.
Bazing. Wow, that's fun to say. Bazing is Tri-County Bank's Smart Rewards checking account. With Bazing, you have cell phone protection, ID theft protection, roadside assistance, discounts at area businesses, and more. This is Bria French. Contact me or any of our great employees to begin your entry into Bazing banking. Terms and conditions may apply. Tri-County Bank, member FDIC, and equal housing lender.
Crawfordsville Peachcast, Untoasted, blast from the past. Movie number 31, 1999. It's a contemporary movie, but it starts out in the past. And now we're looking at it in 2024, a movie that was made in 1999. Sometimes I don't know what end is up. I'm doing shows for the future that are on, and we're running them anyway. But right now we're doing Blast from the Past. Maverick is working with me right now, the cat. We got Brendan Fraser as Adam. We got Alicia Silverstone as Eve. Yeah, I saw what you did there.
Yeah.
Christopher Walken as Calvin Weber. Sissy Spacek as Helen Weber. And Sissy was she in Hot Rod or was she in Dirty Work? Which one?
Yes, she was in Hot Rod. She was the mom, Andy Samberg's mom.
Okay. I'll let you take it from the dinner party that had more guests than I've had here in the house in the last 5 years. I mean, there was 150 people at that dinner party.
Oh, it was huge. There was a lot. I mean, hi, I'm seeing a little Maverick. I love that.
That's good, yeah.
We start out with this. We all the like newsreel footage is how the movie opens, right? And Perry Como, so we're seeing, we're in 1962, Cold War, tensions, yada yada yada. We're at the dinner party where we see that our Christopher Walken character, Dr. Calvin Weber, is kind of eccentric, right? And, along the way, he's talking to these guys. Basically, the Cuban Missile Crisis, while they're at this party, the Cuban Missile Crisis begins, or at least it begins in a public way in that Kennedy made the speech. That is historic speech. It basically announced the fact that we had discovered the offensive nuclear weapons 90 miles from Florida. So he makes the speech. The character, Dr. Calvin Weber, and his wife, Sissy, she's pregnant. They live in California, Southern California. And basically, he's, kind of paranoid, but he's also brilliant. So we know he has established some degree of a fallout shelter for them. And he's talking politics with these people. And he, once hearing this speech, Dave, sends them all home. Basically says, you got to go home. This looks bad. And then basically he says, look, who knows what's going to happen? This could blow over, but I think we should go in the fallout shelter, basically. And Sissy Spacek's character says, do we have to kind of? And he goes, yeah, I think we should. So they go down there. Seems okay at that point. We don't really see the vast Costco level, place that he has constructed underground. But what happens, coincidentally, Dave, is there is a U.S. plane, this looks in the era of Tom Cruise. It looks like an F-14 Tomcat is experiencing technical difficulties. The pilot is going to ditch. He thinks the plane is going to go to the ocean. And somehow, Dave, at some point, it starts falling. And it just so happens that it falls on the Weber home after they have moved into the fallout shelter. Blast, big, fire. They think, oh my God, it's happened.
How convenient to the plot.
How convenient, Dave. How convenient. Extremely convenient is how that worked, my friend. So, wow. What we find out then is that he has set it up to lock them in for 35 years. And why 35 years, Dave?
When the radiation goes away.
Exactly. He had determined that 35 years is what it would take for the atmosphere to be safe again. So they are now locked in for 35 years and she's pregnant. So, Dave, of course, they have a baby and obviously no complications as it was a underground delivery. And then we begin the montages, right? Followed with a little dialogue as we have the child versions of Brendan Fraser as Adam. And we see him learning to, his dad is teaching him school, basically. He's learning languages. He's learning history. He's learning how to box, right? His mom is teaching him how to dance. We see that this place underground is massive, Dave. How could he have done all this by himself? I'm going to leave that one alone. But
they kind of explained that in the movie.
I guess, but it was all right. Well, explain that.
He brings in a lot of contractors.
Yes.
And he doesn't just have one contractor, and he tells them some story that it's government research or something like that. And so not many of them are or I guess they're all involved in a very small percentage of what's going on. And, I guess the supply chain in 1962 or whatever this was better than it is now, because I think you'd have a little problem getting all the ducks in a row to develop an underground bunker with a patio and kitchen and storeroom. That might be a little more difficult to arrange now, but in 62, it was a lot easier.
He could do it. So he has all that. Time passes. Our character is growing. And we know that Sissy Spacek all along the way has been a good egg, Dave, but never really a fan. She's ready. She's ready.
Here's evidence, Dave. There was a line at the 23-minute mark of the movie. Christopher Walken, a.k.a. Calvin Weber, says, when we go up, I'm going to miss this place.
Yeah.
Sissy goes out in a part of the compound or whatever you would call it and screams her lungs out.
Yeah, she screams. And at one point he says, because he loves hot Dr. Pepper. And he goes, your favorite. And she says, no, Calvin, your favorite.
Hot Dr. Pepper.
Oh my God. One of the things he does to his son while underground is try to explain baseball, right? That's one of the things that he tries to do. Fast forward a little bit. We're getting
now you
to
left a couple things out.
Okay.
That I do want to point out.
Good.
One, some what do they call these red herrings or something? I don't know what they call them. Like
yeah,
the stocks.
Okay, good.
They were going to go back there, and then the baseball cards, which were an infinite supply of cash when Brendan, Fraser, Adam goes up.
Good stuff. I will give you a tidbit on the baseball cards. So Calvin, the father, collects baseball cards, has good ones, right? Because we were talking about, you can see the Honus Wagner card on top, on that stash, and then there's like a mantle card. But anyway, the director, Hugh Wilson, of this movie, who the big tie-in, Dave, Hugh, of course, of WKRP fame. He created WKRP. Didn't do a lot of movies, but...
Wow, I did not know that. Thank you, Dave.
Yeah. So Hugh insisted that every baseball card in the film be authentic. Okay. And that cost the production several $1,000s, and a number of valuable baseball cards were destroyed, including a 1960 Topps Willie McCovey rookie card accidentally trampled on by actor Don Yesso, who played the owner of the baseball card store. How about that? Yeah. So some of the plot points.
You got to break some eggs, Dave.
You got to break eggs. So the MacGuffins here are the stock certificates. Dad has like stock certificates, like original certificates at IBM or whatever they were. Oh, they're probably worthless now because obviously. So he has these because they're pretty. So he hangs on to those. Has the baseball cards. So he has those 2 points. We see up above in kind of the montages that at first it was like a malt shop right above their place after they scraped it clean from the accident, became like a malt shop, and then it became like a kind of a more of a hippie bar, I guess, would be like the 70s or whatever. And then after that, it gets a little dark. And at one point, you see the mom character leave, and we do this. We see the same character, the guy who started working at the malt shop, is now kind of a lost figure who is up above them. So that's happening. So then we kind of reach a crescendo, and Sissy Spacek says she wants him to be able to go up or whatever. And while they're arguing, Christopher Walken has a heart attack or some kind of episode, which at the moment of the movie, I thought, oh, okay, he's going to die. No, Dave, he's not going to die. But what happens now is Brendan, or Adam, needs to go up top to fetch supplies because Dad went up. Oh, no, I'm missing another big point. Dad does go up when the 35 years end. And what does he see, Dave?
He sees a world that to him appears like there has been a nuclear blast.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it was like it was raining in Los Angeles. So I'm like, that's weird. So that doesn't happen. It's dark. He sees people throwing up in the street, pointing guns at him. He meets an androgynous prostitute, and basically he's trying to ask this person questions, and his what he comes away from that is that this person is a mutant. They're neither male nor female, but some post-apocalyptic version of whatever's happening. So he sees all this, goes back down, and tells them. He also finds out there's a porn video store up above, and when he goes back down, he tells them it's basically bad. They shouldn't go up, and has a heart attack. Right. So at that point, so he has the heart attack. It's determined Adam will go up. Adam goes up. What does he see, Dave?
Well, he sees much the same thing, but initially he sees the people there look at him in awe, and they worship him at that point.
Oh, yes.
And that's something that we have to remember for later, because
it comes back.
They are looking at this as some sort of out of worldly experience, and perhaps some sort of godlike creature coming up from the bottom of the earth in such spectacular fashion.
our guy who started out as like the soda jerk at the malt shop, who stayed at the place through bars and bad iterations, is now seeking and not in a good way in his life. And he basically is talking about the fact that in 12-step programs, they ask you to find a higher power. So he's kind of setting up, where is God? And at that point, the elevator breaks through the ground, and Christopher Walken's character appears in a kind of hazmat suit. So he looks like either someone from outer space or some futuristic character, i.e., he's a deity. So the next day, when Adam comes up, he says, "Oh, yesterday you were in yellow," and Adam's character says, "No, that was my dad," reiterating the God aspect, and he says, "Oh, you're the son. That makes sense." So, armed with a suitcase full of a few items, including the stock certificates and the baseball cards, he goes out into the world, eventually landing at the ball card shop, right, to try to sell some of those cards. He has no idea their real value.
Absolutely not.
He's going to be taken by the shady owner until someone steps in.
And that would be Alicia Silverstone playing Eve, not Russian, but Ukrainian Rustikov.
Rustikov, yes. And it was Alicia Silverstone of that era, right? One of the things that in doing some backstory of the movie, she insisted on doing all the driving herself in the scenes where she's driving. The director discovers she wasn't driving poorly enough to be convincing. So they ended up basically having to redo that. But related, Brendan Fraser did do all his driving and nearly destroyed a craft service truck in his driving. So there were some issues there, Dave.
Moving along, though, Adam, I think he fell for Eve quickly. She was a little reluctant along the way. We meet their friend group, and again, kind of going back to Point Break, he's got everybody has friends when you show up. I mean, if you move in to a new town, everybody's got their friends, everybody's got their routine, and now you've got to kind of work in, and that could prove to be problematic at some point.
It is, and in this case, Dave, the sidekick, or Alicia Silverstone's best buddy, her gay best buddy, is Dave Foley from The Kids in the Hall. And again, looking at the backstory of this, he happened to meet director Hugh Wilson at a bowling alley in Culver City. Okay. And he basically was funny. And so he said, "Look, we got to get you in this screenplay that I'm working on." So that's how Dave Foley got in this movie. So, but Dave's kind of the he's kind of the catalyst to the Alicia Silverstone character, and he helps the Brendan Fraser become the metrosexual. He takes him shopping, and then we have all these scenes where he's showing her different clothing. At this point, she's not falling for him, but he does want to basically meet a girl, right? So the big premise is they go to a nightclub, right? And that they go to the nightclub, and that's where we see him. Wow, he can dance. When we remember, oh, he learned how to dance. Then, of course, the boyfriend, right? So there's somebody that steps in, and Cliff. And who is Cliff, Dave? We later know him now as...
You're going to have to help me.
He was in the movie. Two things. There's a TV show on ABC right now called The Rookie, and he is the lead in that, Nathan Fillion. And then a few years ago, there was a movie, and I'm trying to remember, Dave, about Pie. It was on Broadway. The movie was Waitress, and then, of course, later he ended up in the ABC movie Suspect, where he still sees today, but he's kind of a good, swarmy boyfriend character. And, of course, one of the other, we've got to have, this is a movie of this ilk has to have some fisticuffs, right? So, and this is where we see that all the years of boxing that his dad taught him there in underground came to fruition as he can handle himself easily, as well as being a great dancer. So voila, she realizes, Dave, that she has feelings for him.
She doesn't want him carrying on with other ladies.
That is it. So, okay, what happens after this, though, is we realize, or basically, they think that he's crazy because what happens, she says, you got to tell me the truth. And so he tells her the truth, tells her everything. And of course, Dave, she thinks he is insane.
In some ways, this is kind of like a Hallmark movie.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
With, you know, a bomb shelter and all that. But, you know, you've got that, that last, I should say that last, you know, with 25 minutes left in the movie, disaster hits. There's a misunderstanding that causes the boyfriend to go away, and they part, they go to the airport, that kind of thing. And at the 15-minute mark, it's all resolved. My timing on that might be it might be like at the 29-minute mark to go in the movie. And then they kind of, about the 15-minute mark, get together, and all of a sudden there's a porch and there's some mistletoe, and they smooch at the end.
They smooch at the end. And, you know, as you said, one of the things that comes back around is that the guy who was up above and basically thinks they are a deity has created a church around them. And the parishioners, Dave, are going to help them unload all the supplies that he has procured while he's been running around with her. So I was thinking at this time, this was before like Costco, Sam's Club was what it is today, that he could have gone to one place and probably gotten it all, but not in 1999 or the equivalent.
Well, he hired Alicia Silverstone as his personal assistant, selling baseball cards and collecting supplies for another run in the bomb shelter. Alicia Silverstone, she looks like, as I mentioned, she looks like a Hallmark movie star, and also a little bit like Drew Barrymore.
Yeah, very much. Yeah. Yeah. At that time, perfect. Yeah. She had just, you know, it's like big eyes, you know, and kind of that, just the way her hair was wearing and just kind of the approach to the character. And this was also the height of Drew Barrymore, right? As far as being a rom-com movie star.
Drew Barrymore has a talk show going on. I guess she battles it out with Kelly Clarkson to this day. As far as the talk show circuit goes, Alicia Silverstone, probably still
She's doing
working.
okay.
Still doing okay. We get some more Perry Como. They meet the parents. We get the duck joke again. The Garden of Eden.
Yes.
Pretty predictable at this point. But I will say that his dad still has a huge distrust for the commies.
Yeah.
And, you know, in 2024, there's still a little bit of intrigue, we will say, when it comes to the Soviet Union.
Absolutely. And it's kind of, you know, it's like, how do they wrap this up? Well, I want to say that one of the interesting things that I read about this movie, Dave, and I don't know if you had heard this, but I'm going to share it with you because it's interesting. How about that? The original ending. This is what Hugh Wilson, the director, wanted. Okay. He wanted Helen Weber, Sissy Spacek, revealing herself as a longtime Soviet sleeper agent named Yelena Borova. And then there was going to be a slapstick battle between Eve and Yelena outside the adult bookstore. Adam and Calvin rush out to see the struggle as Yelena pins Eve holding a knife. Okay. Then Calvin tackles his wife. Yeah, he had a quick decision. Calvin tackles the wife, carries her back to the fallout shelter, seals them inside, says a hurtful goodbye to Adam. Okay. Test audiences didn't like that, Dave. They were shocked. Okay. And so there were several scenes cut, including a scene with Yelena as Helen spiking Adam's cereal with Soviet vodka during their stay in the fallout shelter.
But that
So
was
that
not,
didn't
that was
happen.
not the ending. That was
No,
not the ending.
Dave.
They did not
No.
tack that on the end.
But after reading that, I kind of see how because it does kind of fall into a place at the end. It really doesn't end, right? The premise is they use the stock certificates, buy a house in the country, recreate, or buy a land in the country, recreate their home. He sits down with his dad to have the talk. And the talk is, Dad, the Soviet Union, we didn't get bombed. It didn't happen. And the movie ends, Dave, with Christopher Walken basically walking off his new shelter that he's going to start working on. So he didn't trust those commies, not for a second.
And so it goes. With Blast from the Past, we'll talk about the soundtrack and also must-see TV after the break on the Crawfordsville Peachcast. Central Indiana Rubber Products provides the power for you. Central Indiana Rubber Products, or CIR, keeps farm equipment and local manufacturing processes running with gaskets, belts, seals, and O-rings, among a variety of other products and services. Employee-owned and always customer-focused. Central Indiana Rubber Products, 989 West, 83 North, Crawfordsville, and at indianarubber.com. Central Indiana Rubber Products, or CIR, power for you. Blast from the Past, the 31st movie in our Untoasted series here on the Crawfordsville Peachcast, talking about the soundtrack. Man, we go all over the place. Perry Como to Everclear to REM to Dishwalla, Randy Newman, Squirrel Nut Zippers, and Soundgarden.
Wow. How about that? I will say this, too. Again, tidbits. Chris Cornell from Soundgarden, had not heard Blast in the Past for a long time. 2009, he watched the movie on a plane, and then he heard their song, Drawing Flies, and according, he began to weep, made plans to contact his old bandmates, and 1 year later, Soundgarden reunited. So Blast from the Past helped bring Soundgarden back for a while before Chris Cornell passed away.
Yeah, that was a sad ending. We also had Randy Newman, not as successful as Kenny Loggins as far as at least chart wise as far as movies, but Toy Story, and in this movie it was a song, I believe. Maybe not exactly right, but Let's Drop the Big One.
Let's Drop the Big One. Perfect for this movie. And of course, he's probably the most well-known soundtrack he did, which occasionally you hear again, is The Natural, right? The lights blowing out as Roy Hobbs hits another home run. So yeah, Randy Newman's in this. One tidbit about this movie I thought was, two tidbits. One is that it is illegal to own, distribute, or show this film in Russia. How about that? The Russian government declared it offensive in a way that it misrepresents the Russian history and culture. And despite this, Blast from the Past is the second most pirated film in Russian history behind, I would never have got this, but guess, Dave.
Man, Rocky IV.
Not bad, but I'm tying it back into our theme, Space Jam.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That is wild.
How about that?
Now, okay, let me ask a question.
Yeah.
You're in the Soviet Union.
Yes.
Okay, let's just say I'm in the Soviet Union, and I go to YouTube. I can't watch the movie on YouTube?
I'm guessing not, but we
How
probably
do they do that?
I'm sure they get around it.
How does that happen? So YouTube, but what I'm just saying is that, so if you're somewhere across, if you're in another country, and you go to YouTube, they can
shut you off.
They can shut off what I can watch. So I can watch Almost Heroes in the Soviet Union on YouTube.
Yes,
but I can't watch Blast from the Past.
Well, you can't watch Blast from the Past. Not sure how the technical algorithms do all this, but I do know that there are people incarcerated that are using Google like you and I, but probably not getting the same access. So it's happening.
Now, our talk about must-see TV Thursday night, NBC. It kind of started with Bill Cosby in the 80s
Yes.
and moved to
Yep.
Cheers. And I think there was the show Hill Street
ER,
Blues. And
Hill Street
we'll get there,
Blues.
but then there was LA Law.
Yeah, LA Law. Yes.
But we're keeping it to the 90s here. Seinfeld, he ran from 89 to 98. Cheers from 82 to 93. Friends from 94 to 04. ER from 94 to 09. Cosby from 84 to 92. Fraser from 93 to 04. LA Law from 86 to 94. They threw a lot of other shows in there, including Mad About You, Wings, Caroline in the City that we've talked about. But when you look at some of these numbers from must-see TV, Jerry Seinfeld's final year was 97, 98. And if you look at ratings today for network TV, Seinfeld averaged 34 million people watching the show in 97, 98, not that long ago. Friends had 24. ER had 30 million. The last episode of Seinfeld, which Jerry regrets, he doesn't like that. He doesn't like there are a lot of people that do not like the way Seinfeld ended.
Sure.
It was watched by 76 million people.
Wow.
And after Jerry left, must-see TV was never the same. It was still big, still had some stars, still had some shows, but it was actually Jerry Seinfeld that kept it going after the Cosby Show ended in 92. He was, and that show was, the one that got it into the stratosphere. And when he left, it was never the same.
Yeah. Wow. It makes sense. I never thought about it or looked at it that way, but it does make sense. Was there anything, trying to think anything NBC has, nothing pops to my mind. Like there was a long time when you knew at least one portion of the Thursday night lineup of NBC, even if you weren't watching it, because everybody else was. So, but boy, when it died off after that, I can't remember a thing.
No, and there were other shows that they put on there. Just Shoot Me,
right?
The single guy. There's a lot of things that they put in those X spots, but it was all held together.
Yeah,
by Seinfeld.
Wow. And obviously to this day, with as much as it's still seen, it has become the Andy Griffith, I would say, Dick Van Dyke Show level syndicated program for its forever. Because you can watch it on Comedy Central anytime you want. You can, I believe it's on Netflix. And there is a million references in the stratosphere of the internet in every way, shape, or form.
And again, going back to kind of our 70s versus 80s versus 90s talk, the 90s, you could make an argument, it was the end of an era for a lot of stuff in the beginning. It was the big beginning of the internet era. It was the last decade for big television. It was definitely the decade that the NFL took over as far as the national pastime from baseball. It was, you go to other events of the 90s. I believe the Women's World Cup was in the 90s when the U.S. won that. That was a big moment. The 90s, like I say, don't sleep on the 90s.
I think you make some really good points that I didn't consider when you pull them all together. What we're seeing today with Caitlin Clark, right? There were seeds of that because before that time, that Women's World Cup team with Mia Hamm and a lot of folks, and obviously there was a big moment when on a penalty kick, the very last participant wins against the rival, takes off her shirt, shows that she's, wearing her sports bra loud and proud. So it was a moment for women's sports that had not happened. We'd not really coalesced around a group of women in any sport on any team. And that happened right there. And it is, what came out of that grew and has continued to grow women's sports in a way that, a superstar like Caitlin Clark, that's now going to be playing for the Fever, is going to change Indianapolis as things go forward. So, what was set forth in the 90s, we are seeing still having big ripples today.
And some of the things that went away in the 90s, if you look at network TV right now,
Ooh.
and you tell them, hey, I got a show that's going to be seen by 34 million people, they would look at you like, if it's not going to be a football game, what is it? We'd like to know.
They would expect a sacrifice of some variety.
I don't know what would draw 34 million people on NBC.
No.
It's not going to happen again unless it's a sporting event. And I think that's why you see these crazy, I would say crazy numbers when it comes to rights fees. And right now the NBA is negotiating with several networks. Of course, the NFL, how high is up? College football, I think the SEC package went from like $65 million a year to $390 million a year to ESPN. I mean, it's the last thing that draws eyeballs, and it's, if you think about it, you could make a case that network or that sports is what's keeping the networks alive.
I would say sports and pharmaceutical advertising.
There is that. There is that.
I mean, but it's serious.
Good one.
Well, but you're right. Where would they go? There's not. It is still the place that we turn for live. It is not the place we turn for anything else. So something has to happen to get us away from what we're wanting to do or scheduled to do, to now go to the place where things are live and get out of our way, which it takes a lot.
And you can't binge watch the Kansas City Chiefs.
No.
And we're seeing it with the Indiana Fever. We got a local television station that's going to televise more Fever games than ever as far as local TV. You can't binge watch Caitlin Clark. You got to see it. You got to see it live. You can't cook the steak and then eat it 4 days later. It's right off the grill, ready to go. And that's the attraction of sports. You got to watch it now.
Well, and that, bringing it all back around to radio, right? That's the appeal, is live, talking to you today about what's happening in the community, what's important to know.
And one more thing, tying it back to the original, we gotta, and remind me this, Dave, next Crawfordsville Peachcast, Everclear has a song called AM Radio.
Okay.
I've not heard it.
Let's dissect it.
If you can write that down, put it on your calendar. Next time out, we'll talk about it on the Crawfordsville Peachcast. And as you're listening to this on the regular placement of it, we are actually replaying the Untoasted episodes on 103.9 WIMC at midnight. So we're in the past, we're in the present, we're in the future. Just keep listening to the episodes. Listen to 103.9 at midnight, Sunday through Thursday. Enjoy it, and it is indeed a blast from the past.
A blast
every night.
I love it. I love it. We're everywhere. I'm going to give you one more little tidbit about Blast from the Past. Okay. And it's kind of it's an interesting tidbit that maybe listeners could follow up on, or maybe someone could get lucky with. But here goes. As a marketing gimmick, an ad company hired by New Line, the company that produced the movie, prepared a time capsule with 60s memorabilia relevant to the movie and an actual baseball card. There was a 1959 Topps Willie Mays card, okay? It was buried somewhere in Los Angeles. Clues to the location were supposedly written into advertising in the film, or they were supposed to be. Dave, to date, no one has found the location of the time capsule. The advertising agency claims they don't remember where it was buried. Many believe after the film left theaters without the time capsule being discovered, that the ad man who put it there buried it, that he might have dug it up himself, Dave. But we don't know. We don't know. The time capsule could still be out there, Dave. The blast from the past with the Willie Mays Topps card could be found by a listener of this podcast with the right amount of initiative.
I see a screenplay.
Yay! It's possible.
Let's do it. Dave, always fun. We want to thank our presenting sponsor, Tri-County Bank, your community bank since 1892. Also, Central Indiana Rubber, power for you. 1, 2, 3. Hello.
Hello,
Todd. Thanks for listening to the Crawfordsville Peach Cast, sponsored by Tri-County Bank, your community bank since 1892. Tri-County Bank, member FDIC, and equal housing lender. Tune in Thursday for a new episode on Apple or Spotify, and please like, subscribe, and download the Crawfordsville Peach Cast. This podcast was produced and edited by Up Their Media and is a presentation of Fork Broadcasting Digital. I'm Dave Peach, inviting you to join me next week.